Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hi, today in this episode of Politically Correct, we are going to talk about the biennial elections for 5 graduates and teachers constituencies of the Maharashtra Legislative Council and how important these elections are for the Mahavikas Aghadi government of Maharashtra. But before I discuss it further, I have an appeal to make. To sustain good journalism, objective journalism, you must pay. And this is exactly what we at ThePrint have been trying to do. So please subscribe to ThePrint. We have provided the relevant links on our website, theprint.in. Please visit our website and subscribe to us. Coming to the biennial elections. Now, I know many of you may be surprised why I should be talking about this topic, because not many people take MLC election very seriously. Now, in India, we have about half a dozen states where we have bicameral legislature. So you have Vidhan Sabha, Vidhan Parishad. In Maharashtra, you have again Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council. Now, the Legislative Council has 78 members, 30 of which are elected by the MLAs. Then 22 of them are elected by local bodies. Then 12 are nominated by the government, and 7 each are of graduates and teachers constituencies. So if you are a graduate, you have to enroll yourself as a voter and vote in that election. So you have 7 teachers and 7 graduates. Now in this round, we are going to have elections in 5 such constituencies. Now why is it so important? Now after all, these are MLC elections, you would say. But look at the size of the electorate. About 10 to 12 lakh voters will be participating in these elections. About 12 lakh graduates and teachers. And the geographical expanse of this exercise. You know, for instance, in Nagpur graduates division, there are about 6 districts. So it's not like in an MLA election, you have one constituency and voters are from that particular area only. In this election, like if you have graduates, so in Nagpur division, graduates from 6 districts will be voting. In Pune division again, so look at all the divisions. So there are 3 graduates constituencies, one in Pune, and then in Aurangabad, and third in Nagpur. Then you have 2 teachers constituencies, one in Pune again, and another one in Amravati. So these 3 constituencies will be having these polls. This could be a kind of a survey of how the MVA government is doing. I mean, look at the sample size. If you can treat it as a sample size, it's huge. 12 lakh voters. In Pune alone, in Pune division graduate constituency, you have over 5 lakh voters. In Nagpur, you have over 2 lakh voters. So it's a big sample size if you treat it like that. And that will, the results which will come on the 3rd of December will be a verdict on the first year of Uddhav Thackeray government, or this 3-party coalition that is ruling Maharashtra today. The elections, of course, elections are tomorrow, that is on the 1st of December. Why are these elections so important for the stability of Uddhav Thackeray government? So there have been a lot of questions about the durability of this coalition, given the inherent ideological contradictions. In this case, it's not about the BJP. Look, as it is, now we may be talking about the instability of MVA coalition, given these contradictions, but it's not the BJP which is actually going to destabilize this government that way. Although the other day, only last week, we heard Union Minister Rao Sahab Dalway saying that, we'll have the BJP government in Maharashtra in the next 2-3 months. But then a couple of days later, Devendra Fadnavis, he was most circumspect. He said, we are ready to form the government whenever this unnatural alliance falls. Now, there is a reason for this circumspection. Right now, how the Legislative Assembly looks like. Now, in the 288-member assembly, now let's say the actual strength is 287 now, because a couple of days back one NCP MLA passed away. So the 287-member assembly, to get to the majority mark, you will need 144 votes, 144 MLAs. Now BJP had just 105. You put together the allies also, the NDA's tally will go up to 114. So even to get to that majority mark, you need 30 more MLAs. That means 30 people defecting from their parties, from the MVA. And when you go for dislodging a government, as the BJP did in Karnataka and in Madhya Pradesh and in many other states, you don't go for just that exact mark, like you need 30, so you need 30 MLAs. So you do not go hunting for just those 30 defections. You'll ideally be looking at least 35 to 40 MLAs to defect from the other sides to provide you that number, which is a huge task. We are actually looking at 2/3 or 3/4 of the party, maybe the Congress or the Shiv Sena, splitting away to give that kind of number to the NDA. And that's why it's very difficult. See, nothing is impossible in politics, and especially what the BJP has been able to do in other states, you can't call it impossible, but it's extremely difficult getting 30 MLAs, over 30 MLAs to switch their loyalty to the BJP. So the problem with Uddhav Thackeray government is not the BJP right now. The problem is to keep the MVA together. And that's why these elections, the biennial elections for the graduates and teachers constituencies are very important. First, because it's the first time that the MVA is contesting together. Now we have seen how, all these decades, how Shiv Sena cadre, Congress cadre and NCP cadre, they have been, on the ground, they have been kind of big political adversaries. They have been working against one another. It's the first time that they are coming together. So these elections will show whether the MVA or the parties can bring their cadres and leaders together to campaign in constituencies. On this score, the MVA has done well in these biennial elections. You have Shiv Sena leaders, Congress leaders, NCP leaders. They have been campaigning together. They have been sharing dice. So that first test, the MVA has cleared. What's the second test? The biggest test is whether, as a three-party coalition, you can defeat the BJP. And that's why everybody is watching these elections. Because if you are together and you have been able to, or if your performance is that impressive, say you win 4 out of 5 seats or win 5 out of 5 seats, which is not impossible given the fact that you have the BJP on one side and 3 parties together on the other side. So if you win, that will give some kind of stability to the MVA right now, because all these 3 parties and their leadership would actually see this experiment working on the ground. They might be very skeptical about their ideological incoherence, the incoherence in the coalition, but they have come together to defeat the BJP. That has been the basic motto. Now, if these elections prove that is working on the ground, well, Uddhav Thackeray will get a breather, at least in immediate future. We don't know what will happen. You have many local body elections in 2021, leading up to the big BMC election in 2022. So you will see some kind of a stability. Uddhav Thackeray will be more reassured because the coalition partners would see reason or more logic in staying together to defeat the BJP. But if, and I repeat, it's a big if the 3-party coalition fails in these elections, there are just 5 seats, and that too in the Legislative Council. But if this coalition does not seem to be working on the ground, it's a big problem for Uddhav Thackeray. Remember, when these parties came together, Congress had a huge issue. Rahul Gandhi was not happy. Rahul Gandhi did not want to, what you call, the sleeping with the ideological enemy. But there was this senior leader, Ahmed Patel, former political secretary to Sonia Gandhi. Then you have former Maharashtra Chief Minister Prithviraj Chavan. And these leaders, they actually went to Sonia Gandhi and they managed to convince her that to keep the BJP out of power in India's commercial hub, the economic hub, Mumbai, you need to sink these differences for now and come together. Sonia got convinced, but Rahul was never happy. Now, the biggest architect of that coalition, I'm not talking about Sharad Pawar, I'm talking from the Congress side. The biggest architect was Ahmed Patel. Ahmad Patel passed away last week. Now, in the Congress's central leadership, you do not have any big leader with that kind of influence to keep convincing Sonia Gandhi, no, we need to actually carry on. Other people, like say, I just talked about Prithviraj Chavan, he is confined to his hometown, Karad, he does not have much role to play at the center now, here in Delhi. So you do not really have any strong advocate of this coalition anymore. And Rahul Gandhi, he is going to take over after AICC elections sometime in February. Once Rahul Gandhi comes, and in this backdrop, that is if the MVA loses these elections, and then Rahul Gandhi comes to power 2-3 months later, and he starts calling the shots. He and his lieutenants, most of whom are leftist or ultra-leftist, they won't really see much logic in continuing the coalition if things are not working on the ground, and even if the three-party coalition is unable to beat the BJP. And that's why these elections are very important. I'm sure Uddhav Thackeray must be keeping his fingers crossed on this. On the 3rd of December, we'll come to know what happens, what the results are, and what those results mean for the MVA government.